forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Guyanese Swag Trailblazing Voices. My name is Key McKay. I am your host, and we bring you interviews from leaders across the diaspora who are shakers and movers in they field getting things done, y'all. Today we have with us the founder and creator of Soovenir Wings, which is known for taking the essence of Caribbean cuisine and marinating the flavors of traditional and contemporary to bring us mouth-watering wings and, of course, catering services. We're talking about the founder and creator, Ethan Soovenir himself. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm really excited to have you on the platform, and I know that people who are going to watch and listen to this episode are going to learn a bunch because you guys are doing amazing things. Before we get started, the first question I ask everyone is, what part of Guyana were you born?
Well, I was born in America, but my family's from West Bank, Demerara, number 1 Canal.
I love it. And so you're the first generation Guyanese American.
Yes, that is correct.
What was it like for you growing up in a household with Guyanese parents?
Well, growing up in a household like that, my parents cooked all the time. They practically lived in the kitchen, from morning to after till night. We were taught from young how to cook. I started cooking at age 5, and loved it from the start.
Learning to cook at age 5, first of all, being American, growing up in America, anyone who has crossed these waters know that there's a bunch of laws and restrictions about what a child, quote unquote, can and can't do. For you now as an adult, looking back, how would you grade that experience? I know you said that you enjoyed it from the very beginning, but like safety wise, and now looking as a parent or one day being a parent yourself, would you have your child follow in those same footsteps?
I have a 2-year-old, and yes, I would have him follow my footsteps. I feel like kids need to learn, make mistakes, and your parents should be the guiding tool for kids to learn.
I love how you put that. Parents should be the guiding tool for kids to learn, because so often we see, especially in Guyanese culture, where it's like my way or the highway, but looking at parenthood as a perspective of, I'm guiding you, I'm just here to guide you. Was that something that you inherited from your parents, or is that something that you just picked up along the way of being a parent now yourself?
I mean, my parents are very strict. It was always my way or the highway. But now, since I'm a parent, I learned to you have to allow your child to make mistakes, and that's one thing that I try to be more in the background and not forcefully telling my child, this is what you have to do. I want them to learn, and if it hurts them, then they know not to do it again.
How has those lessons translated into going into now basically being a professional chef and owning your own? Was that something, like, I know you said in the beginning that you grew up cooking, but did you always have a love for, hey, I want to make this a profession? Because those are two different concepts. So at what point did you say, I want to make this a profession?
I would say I would get often encouragement from friends and family, and I was just career focused and I just did cooking as a hobby, not more as a profession. I would say around 2015, 2016, it got to a point where my friends would say, listen, Ethan, if you don't turn this into a business, we're gonna look at the things that you do and steal it from you and start cooking our own. And then that's when I just said to myself, okay, I'm just gonna throw up a flyer on Instagram and see how things go. And I was just amazed by the amount of volume that I got. And once that started, I said to myself, I can't start something and just let it go. I have to continue. And then I have to solidify my actual business.
let's talk about flavors onto itself, because we talked about this earlier, where you're known for taking the traditional and contemporary cuisine. Most of the time we see it's like one way or the other, but you've beautifully found a way to marinate the two and create your own. What was the process, or what was some of the things that you did to say, this is how I'm going to grasp the flavors and come up with my own, instead of going with what would have otherwise been like expected of you?
I'm always thinking. I'm always thinking of new things. I'm always thinking of traditional things. I'll go over stuff with my mom and she'll say, just try it. Um, and I'm just always thinking in my head. So the what I've learned from cooking, um, salt is the positive, no, sugar is the positive, salt is a negative. So then I try to fuse things in between. So if something is very salty, then I try to find something that's sweet and then try to combine that in between the two. So I'm constantly thinking of things. I'm thinking of, okay, well, what is a Guyanese flavor that I could add to this dish, but then don't overpower it, because a lot of us don't really like spicy foods. So I try to mesh things in between. I mean, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Oh no, I listen. I
So,
love it. My
um,
mind right now is going, ooh, spicy and sweet. That sounds good.
yeah. So say if something, I mean, I'm working on something now. Um, Mari pepper. So that's something's very spicy. The easiest thing to cut out the spiciness is something sweet. Say sugar, molasses, honey. So pineapple juice. So that's things that I'm constantly thinking of. What else can I add that people are gonna like?
I'm gonna pause on the business, and then we're gonna take a backlog for a second. So
Okay.
let's go back to childhood, growing up and being in a household where food was the center, where cooking happened all the time, and then going to school. How was that? Was that reinforced in the classroom, or how were you able to bring the experiences that you had at home into the classroom, into your professional life?
So I didn't go to school to I didn't go, well, when I went to school, I went to school for criminal justice and not culinary arts. I thought about doing that prior after I graduated high school. But I didn't really find anything that really interested me. And that's when I thought about going into police, and that didn't go through. So um that's how I just ended up going back to what I really liked, which was catering.
So growing up and then saying, hey, I want to get into criminal justice, what was the inspiration that says, hey, I want to pursue criminal justice, and then realizing that, you know what, this career pathway is not for me, or I don't necessarily want to pursue this. I want to go back to where my real love is.
Growing up in a household with my grandparents, they migrated to United States in the late 90s, around in the mid 90s, around 95. Um, Growing up hearing stories from my grandfather, because he was a police officer in Guyana, that just thrilled me. And I said, you know what, let me just try to get into try to become a police officer in New York. During 2008, that fell through. So I started working in the corporate world, and then dove back into catering because, like I said, my family and friends kept pushing me to jump back into something that they knew that I had a passion for.
Having the experience in the corporate world, how do you feel that that has now prepared you to be even a better entrepreneur and a better CEO of your own business and your own vision?
It's taught me customer service and patience with customers. Uh, Sometimes you might get people that are very unruly or try to shortchange you, and you try to find the best way to, I wouldn't say persuade them, but convince them that uh, this is the correct price, or this is how things are done.
You have I find your story is much like many entrepreneurs, where it's, I'm going down this path and I'm pursuing this thing over here, but life keep redirecting you back to, no, this is where I want you. This is where you need to focus. And the moment that you decide, hey, I want to focus on this, because the demand was there, family and friends kept saying, hey, we want this from you, we want this, and the demand was there. Once you dove into that demand and you gave yourself over to it to say, hey, I'm finally going to pursue this thing, what were some of the initial thoughts that you had going into it?
Well, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being successful. Those were the initial thoughts. And yeah, that's really about it. And what would be my next path going forward after I start everything? Like, where would I go? Where would things lead to?
Many people, whether it's related to business or school or just taking a vacation, sometimes people allow fear. And many people have that same emotions to many things in life, the fear, the anxiety of the unknown. And for some people, it holds them back, and many people even ultimately pass on to the next role and not really explore their fullest potential because of the fear or the doubt or the anxiety. But you found a way to feel those feelings and embrace them and pursue your vision anyway. What were some of the things that motivated you to say, you know what, even though I'm feeling fear, even though I'm feeling anxiety, I'm not going to let this hold me back anymore?
Just being the ambitious person that I am. What always go through my head is it's all or nothing. And that's just the drive that I have every day, to just continue going forward no matter what. Even if I fail or I felt that I failed, I started something and I established myself, and I just have to keep going forward.
What were some of the lessons that you learned in that process of becoming?
Um, Lessons that I've learned. I've learned to, like I said earlier, just uh fear, sorry, I guess fears of me failing. Um, I've taken losses where I've done events and I've haven't sold anything, or what I anticipated on selling, I didn't. And I just learned to cut back on certain things, or just conserve or promote more, or try to build a team around me to go forward. I mean, if you understand.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
that's
As entrepreneurs, all of us go through that cycle where it's like, first there's the fear of, I don't know if I should really do this. And then you finally convince yourself to pursue it. And then when you start to pursue it, then it's like the learning curve, where it's like you have to learn what works and what doesn't work. You have to learn who to surround yourself with and who to not surround yourself with. And all the different aspects that we learn to eventually build the business or build the vision that we had in our minds. At what point did you say, you know what, this is not just going to be a one-man show, this is not just going to be something that I do in my pastime, but I'm actually going to build the business? Because those are two different things, and we must go through the process of being the one to do everything before it eventually evolve into a full-blown business. And sometimes we even started as a hobby. So I guess my question is, at what point did you realize, you know what, I'm not just going to do this as a hobby or a pastime? And I know we briefly talked about this, where the demand came from family and friends, but even with family and friends, that sometimes is not enough to convert it into a business. So at what point did you realize that, hey, I can build a full-blown business out of this thing?
customers. I've actually built friendships from customers, um, and referrals. When I get referrals, I kind of get excited because, wow, people either really took to liking of my food and are referring X, Y, and Z to replace orders through my company.
And I jumped in there and immediately started asking questions about the food. Every time I have foodies on here, this is what I do. But to back up a little bit and tell for the people who are watching and they don't know who you are, they've never heard of Soovenir Wings, tell them in your own words, what is Soovenir Wings, the services that you guys offer?
Okay, so Soovenir Wings is a wing business. I could cook many things, but I've noticed that there's not really many catering companies that their core is wings. It's usually West Indian, American, or different other cuisines. So I took, well, wings was always my favorite thing. So I said to myself, why don't I just go ahead and start a business for just mainly wings? Soovenir Wings, well, Soovenir is my last name. The meaning of it is something to remember. So that's why I came with, well, I used my last name as that because I want people to have my food and remember, okay, well, this is what I had, and I'm gonna always want to order, or I'm gonna always remember who made this. Um, so that's why I came up with everything.
You have masterfully done something that many entrepreneurs and business owners don't understand the power of, and that's the power of specialization. Like you could have done many things and created an entire menu that had hundreds and maybe dozens of different items, but you took one thing, wings, and you specialized in it, and you have created an entire, not only menu, but an entire business out of focus and specialization. Did you always have that focusedness, or how did you realize that, hey, I'm not going to go out and do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to focus on one thing. And I'm sure the temptation come to, well, I'm selling wings, I can do this, but having the discipline to focus on just selling that one thing and mastering it. How did you develop that discipline?
I've always wanted to be different. Don't want to follow the masses. Because I'm tired of seeing repetitive things. So I kind of just wanted to stay away from the Guyanese cuisine or the West Indian cuisine. And I just wanted to do something where, okay, the wings, and then I could add West Indian flavor to it, which isn't really done. You can't really see it out there. And that's really what I just wanted to bring to the masses.
I love it. I love it. On that note, we're going to take a quick break for a message from today's sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Meet Kim. She recently moved to a new neighborhood and has a craving for pine tart and cheese rolls. She Googled Guyanese restaurants in her neighborhood and received recommendations for Ghanaian restaurants instead. While she was at the park walking, her dog Kim ran into Susan, a fellow Guyanese, who introduced her to the Guyanese Swag Business Directory, a comprehensive listing of reputable Guyanese-owned businesses across the diaspora. Kim now regularly visits the GuyaneseSwag.net, where she can easily find trusted and reliable Guyanese-owned businesses and stay updated on upcoming events throughout the diaspora. Since the directory offers detailed business profiles, including pictures, videos, specials, contact information, and even reviews from neighbors, Kim is able to stay connected to her roots in her new home away from home. Register your business for free by visiting GuyaneseSwag.net.
Welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us, if you missed the first half of this interview, I highly encourage you to go back to listen and watch it. We're here today with Ethan Soovenir, who's the founder and creator of Soovenir Wings, which is known for taking Caribbean flavors and marinating the old and the new to give us mouth-watering wings. Ethan, we were just getting into some of the good stuff. My next question for you is, as a business owner, what are some of the things that you have done and continue to do every day that helps you accelerate in your growth in business and personal life?
Uh, I guess I encourage myself on a daily basis. Um, every morning I wake up, I pray, and I just instill affirmation. If people, that's what people would say, but just words of encouragement. Just put in speaking life into everything that I do on a daily basis. And just encourage myself just to move forward. Um, and just know that uh, over time that my business will be much bigger than what it is today.
Using words of affirmation or words of encouragement, or speaking, as I would call it, life into your vision, your mission. Was that something that you learned growing up, or when or how did you learn, hey, I have the ability to speak positively about my vision or about myself or about anything, and it makes a difference in my life?
My grandmother, when she was alive, she would always say, "The power of the tongue speaks volume." If you speak negativity into your life, then the negative things will take place, and that's just something I've always thought about as a child and growing up. Now she's no longer here, but that's something that I will always remember. She grew up with me. Well, I grew up in a household with her, and that's just something that I'll always remember from her.
You spoke highly of your grandparents. Take us back down memory lane. What was it like having your grandparents and having your grandmother who gave you the ability to speak words, and even planted that seed in your mind that, hey, you have the ability to speak into things?
It was like having four parents in the household. It was good because they would always tell me old stories that took place in Guyana. Um, and my grandmother was a baker, so uh, my siblings will sit around during the summertime, and she'll be baking cakes for weddings, and that's. I really enjoyed my childhood with my grandparents around.
You were given a gift to be able to have basically two generations of parents, whereas some people don't even have one generation of parents, and you were blessed with that gift to have both. Now, being a parent yourself, what are some of the things or lessons that you learned from both generations that you want to pass on to your children?
To be loving, um, to be present in my children's life. Um, that's one thing that I would say that my parents has always taught me to be present. Um, money can't buy time, and that's one thing I've learned. Um, just to be present.
That is it's such a magic word, but yet I feel like a lot of people don't understand what it means. So in your own words, break down for us, what does it mean to be present and aware in the moment?
Just the little things, even if it's just sitting around with your child, um, reading books with your child, watching a movie with your child, taking a quick walk. Just certain things your child would always remember because they always think in their head, okay, well, I remember when my parent did this, my father did that, my grandparents did that. That's some things that I still remember to this day.
What would you say is one of your favorite childhood memory with your parents and your grandparents?
I would say my grandparents cooking. I would say cooking. My grandfather would always make fried shark, um, and my grandmother would always bake bread. She would bake bread on a weekly basis. We never bought store bread.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom would make whenever my mom would make patties for catering orders. So yeah, my grandmother and my mom always catered. That's one thing that I've learned from them.
Now being an entrepreneur, business owner, and being on the path to acceleration and success, what are some lessons that you wish to pass on to the next generation?
Um, I would say press on. That's the one thing I would think. Just find your passion, um, and whatever thing you love, um, do it to the best of your ability. Money would come eventually. Don't jump into something just because you see everyone's doing it because oh, you see that this person is doing that and you want to do it to make money. No, find your passion, find your niche, and eventually money will come.
That word passion, we hear it oftentimes associated with entrepreneurship, success, school, and it's like loosely used of, hey, follow your passion or do what you enjoy. How would you define passion, and how would you say that when a person find this thing, they would know, one, that it's passion, and two, that they would know that this is the pathway that I want to pursue or that I should be pursuing?
Once you find your passion, you know that it's not gonna feel like work. It's not gonna feel like something that's stressing you out. It's gonna be something that you love doing. Um, no matter what, you'll wake up any time of the day or any time of the night and know that this is what I want to do now.
In recognizing a person's passion and then saying, hey, this is my passion, sometimes we struggle with, I like doing this thing, but how do I monetize it? Because sometimes there's a feeling of guilt associated with, I love doing this. How do I even know how much to charge for it? Is it the right amount? Am I charging too little? Am I charging too much? Am I being greedy if I charge this much? How were you able to say, hey, this is my passion, I enjoy doing it, and even though I would do it for free, I obviously have to make a living, so this is how I'm going to monetize it?
So when I first started, I I wasn't really charging much because that was something that I loved. And then it got to a point where my family and friends were telling me, listen, you have to up your prices because you don't do what normally people do. I make my sauces from scratch. I make my seasoning from scratch. I do everything from scratch, which takes time and energy. So it got to a point where I had to price it to my sweat equity. And that's how I came up with my prices.
For the person who's watching this video or listening to this audio, and they're going, I eventually want to get into catering, or I eventually want to get into the restaurant industry, period. What are some action steps that they should be taking today that can help them accelerate it or even get on the pathway of being in that industry?
I would say learn as much as you possibly can before you get to the point of where you feel comfortable in putting your ideas out there. Whether it's going to school, learning from mentors, learning from friends or family. Just keep learning until you get to that point where you feel comfortable in putting your ideas out there.
You have a very non-traditional path to the catering world. It's very much traditional and yet unconventional at the same time, because quote unquote, the way that, or I guess the way that society would say do it is, oh, go to school and get this degree and do that and following these pathways. But you were able to say, you know what, I don't have the formal training, but I've been training for this my whole life because I've come from a family that cooks and this is all we do is cook. So technically, even though I don't have formal training, I've been training for this marathon my whole life. Sometimes people can feel discouraged or disqualified because they don't have the degrees on the wall that match this industry or that industry. And it will sometimes stop them from even pursuing what it is that they want to pursue. Did you ever feel that fear of like, hey, I'm not qualified to do this because I'm not quote unquote formally trained to do it?
I did. I've even thought of going back to school. But I mean, like I said, my customers and my food speaks for itself. So I mean, it kind of it defeats the purpose of me going back to school. Um, but yeah, I at first I did get discouraged because I do have friends that are chefs that went to school. Um, but I still feel like I do it better than chefs that did go to school.
Oh, absolutely. I firmly believe there's two ways to do a thing. There's one, going to formal pathway, and then there's two, getting certified by the streets. And you definitely went the route of being certified by the streets because the demand was there. Even before you said, hey, I want to do this, the demand was there and it was calling out to you. Eventually taking that bait and saying, hey, I think I'm finally going to do this thing as a business. What was the moment for you that was like, that moment that felt like confirmation of I'm doing the right thing?
Um, so prior to pandemic, I catered at a lot of parties. Um, there was one particular party that I did in Canarsie where I sold everything out in literally 2 hours. And the party probably just started and I was sold out. And then they called me back to do a few more after that. So after that, I would say after that initial time, that's when I felt, okay, well, I have something here.
Wow. So you got the sugar candy first, and then it was like, okay, now you're ready to work. Bringing the conversation full circle and being where you are today, and sitting from where you are today and looking back at your journey, what are some lessons that you learned, one, and two, what are some things that you would have done differently that you feel like could have accelerated the process to getting you to where you are now?
Lessons I've learned. I've learned to be more efficient with time. Not to rush. Just space myself out. When I first started, I would wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and start preparing and do everything all in one day. Now I've learned to pace myself. Start preparing 2 to 3 days before, get everything done. So the day that I do have to cook, everything is not no rush. So that's what I've learned, to just pace myself now. And what was the second question again?
The second part of that is, what are some things that you feel like if you would have done it in the beginning, or maybe if you would have done it differently in the beginning, it could have helped you accelerate the process to be where you are now?
I think if I would have started earlier, I started in 2016. I feel like if I would have started say 2010 or prior to that, I feel like I probably would have been further along the way. But I mean, everything happens for a reason. But that's the only thing. I probably would have started sooner.
I love it. I love it. On that note, for those who are watching and listening and they want to connect with what you're doing, they want to hire you, they want to buy wings, they want to do all of the above, how can they connect with you? How can they support what you're doing?
They could follow me on Instagram on Soovenir Wings. I also have a website, www.souvenirwings.com, and Facebook, Soovenir Wings. Those are the three things where they could follow me.
As we bring the conversation to a close, what are the final words that you would like to give to the audience?
I would say look me up on souvenirwings.com. And you could give me a call. Well, they could connect with me on my website or Instagram. That's my final words. If you're looking for something different, not your average cuisine, please reach out to me.
I love it. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, you guys heard the master yourself. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We appreciate your time. For those of you who watched the interview, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Drop us a comment. Let us know how Ethan has inspired you. And while you're down there in the comments, please click the links in the description to connect with Ethan, support Soovenir Wings and all that he's doing, because this man is on a journey to do amazing things. Thank you, guys. Go out and have yourself a phenomenal day.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell.